Good morning. Morning, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. There's Coco over there. Deanne couldn't make it. Um, oh wait, just one quick second. Deanne couldn't make it on time, so Coco is gonna be my mod and also my super awesome G poser for now until the end make it by the time in the midst of the reading. But yeah, good morning to everyone who is in my Twitch right now. So far there's nobody here except Coco. So we're gonna do a little bit like an introduction talk and Tian doesn't suck. Tian's great. Yeah. So, for those who are new to my stream, uh, and what to understand what Noodible is, I'm gonna explain it again. Noodible is a play on word on Audible. You know Audible, the app whereby you can listen to books read by certain people or sometimes even certain artists, right? Or voice actors. So I'm neither an artist or a voice actor, but I have a habit of reading books out loud. And so I thought that maybe uh, the habit started because I wanted to learn how to speak English better. I I wasn't very good in English in school. So there was one day I just think to myself like, why don't I record myself reading and then I can correct myself afterwards, right? So that was the thought. Um, then it became a habit whereby if I'm reading a novel or something, um, I would very often just read it out loud, and it became something that I really enjoy for some reason. So the idea of Noodible just came to be that I wanted to read out loud. I want to read a book that I enjoy myself, and then if granted people are actually interested in listening to that book in particular, they can read the book. I mean, listen to the book while I'm reading it, which is an activity that I really very much enjoy. Um, so today, once again, we are continuing Natsume Soseki's I Am a Cat, 吾輩は猫である in volume 2, the second volume, and chapter 2. Today we are going to start and finish up chapter 2, and then we'll see how it goes the next time. Okay? It's a very, very long book. It is apparently his very first novel. It was published in like chapters in magazines back then, but they compiled it and it became his first novel. And Natsume Soseki is someone I admire very much, and I also really enjoy his writing. His writing has always been like he's been dead for almost 100 years, right? And almost a century basically. And his writing is still very prevalent to this day, and that's something that I really think that is really great. So yes, I hope you all enjoy my reading today. I think it's we can do a little talk for about 5 more minutes, then we start at 10 past 10. So how are you? This Kin Komodo, where are you from? Exactly. Like, I think it's at night for you right now, isn't it? How's your evening? How's your day so far? And Coco just wake up. So Coco maybe can tell me how was your sleep? What time did you sleep last night? And why are you the way you are? And Chloe, I know Chloe very, very well. Have you had your coffee? Does the coffee help you at all in waking up? Hmm? Just doing a little chitter chatter. And also to those who has not follow me on Twitch and Twitter, please give me. I mean, it would be. I would be very grateful if you can give me a follow. Shameless plug right there. It would be great if you can give me a quick follow, so that you can know that when I'm streaming, I always set up Oh, you're tired. It's too hot outside. The end. The end will be home soon and it'll be cold and nice. So I do set up my stream schedule on a weekly basis. So do follow me and then check my stream schedule to see when I'm streaming for Noodibles. And then Um, usually I stream almost daily just to play the game, like for progging or just like simply stream for fun really because I'm currently not doing much, just to say the least, right? Like, not a lot of information given out there, but currently I'm not doing much. So I am um whatchamacallit, in game a lot. So I'm in game a lot trying to help friends to go through their stories, their MSQs, to do their roulettes, to um, and also to prog, really prog my Savage. I'm still stuck at P3S forever for like 2 months now, I think. But that's alright. I'm having fun, you know, progging with my friends. And that's a very good feeling, and having fun with friends in game. So I do prog Savage. I am indeed a Savage raider, despite my elegant and pure look. Um, no, just kidding. Um, I have a rating. I have a rating face. This is my rating face. This is my default rating. Concentrate and angry face. So, yeah. I should have, wait, hang on. I should add that one. Sorry. It's like a quick one, right? This is my. It will be when I have my red face on, I have to clarify to people that I'm not angry at them, but I just have my red face on. So wait, hang on, give me a moment. So when I'm raiding, this is how I look like. This is my raid face on. So I have this. I need to have that text there. Otherwise, people would think that I'm like. But no, no. Right now is happy face and no red face on. Okay. Okay. Right now is reading face on. Okay, it's 10 past 10. I'm going to start my reading now. For those who just dropped into my Twitch channel, I'm going to start reading Natsume Sōseki. I am a cat. 吾輩は猫である. Volume 2, Chapter 2. And here we start now. To write down every event that takes place during a period of 24 hours and then to read that record would, I think, occupy at least another 24 hours. Though I'm all in favor for realistically descriptive literature, I must confess that to make a literal record of all that happened in a day and a night would be a tour de force be quite beyond the capacities of a cat. Therefore, however much my master's paradoxical words and eccentric acts may merit being sketched from life at length and in exhaustive detail, I regret that I have neither the talent nor the energy to set them all down for my readers. Regrettable as it is, simply cannot be helped. Even a cat needs rest. After Suzuki and Waver House had taken their departure, it became a quiet as night when winter's icy wind suddenly drops and the snow falls soundlessly. My master, as usual, shuts himself up in his study, and in their six-mat sleeping room, side by side in a bumpy row, the children lies asleep. Mrs. Neist, in the adjoining room, a room that faces south, lies in bed giving suck to Menko, her 1-year-old baby daughter. It has been a hazy day of the type we often get in springtime, and dusk has fallen early. The sound of wooden clocks passing in front of the house can be heard quite distinctly in the living room, and the sound of Chinese flute played in random snatches by someone in the boarding house on the next street falls lullingly in broken dribs upon my sleepy ears. Outside, it must still be hazy. Having filled my stomach with that dinner of rice with fish gravy which Osang had provided me in my abalone shell, I feel that a little shut-eye is precisely what I need. It has come to my ears that haiku poets have taken to using the phrase "cat's love" as a means of indicating that a poem is concerned with the season of spring. Indeed, I have myself observed that there are nights in the early spring when my fellow cats in this neighborhood set up such a caterwauling that sleep is well nigh impossible. As it happens, I personally have not yet experienced such a derangement of my senses. Nevertheless, love is a universal stimulant. It is the way of things, from Olympian Zeus right down to the very humblest of earthworms and mole crickets that chirrups on this earth to wear themselves out in this exhausting field of endeavor. It is, therefore, only natural that cats, too, dreamily joyful, should indulge themselves in the wrist-fraught search for love. Indeed, on looking back, I remember that I myself once pined away for love for tortoiseshell. I hear that even Opula, that gourmandizer of rice cakes dusted with bean flour, the totally extension of the very baseline of the triangle technique, Old Man Goldfield, I hear that even she is smitten with love for the unlikely person of Coleman. I, consequently, would not dream of sneering at those tomcats and their lady consorts, who throughout the whole wide world are so inspired by the ineffable magic of these evenings of spring that they run amok under the excruciations of their lusts and loneliness. However, and to my infinite regret, even when invited to participate, I just don't have the urge. I, in my present condition, that all that I need is rest. I am so utterly sleepy that I simply cannot perform. Accordingly, I sidle sluggishly around the children's bedding, set paw on the forbidden territory at the end where their own feet lie, and finding a suitable space, curl up comfortably and drop off into slumber. I happen to open my eyes, and looking around, find that my master is lying asleep inside the bedding spread beside his wife's. When he goes to bed, it is invariable habit to bring along some small Western book from his collection, but I've never seen him actually read so much as 2 consecutive pages. Sometimes he just brings the book, places it beside his pillow, and makes no faintest attempt to read it, though it seems peculiarly unnecessary to bring a book of which not one line will be read. Such actions are quite typical of my master. However much his wife laughs at him, however suasively he begs him to give up this stupid habit, still he persists. Every evening he makes a point of going to bed with a book which he does not read. Sometimes he makes a positive beast of himself and shuffles in with 3 or 4 books tucked under his arms. For several days, until a little while ago, it was his nightly practice to tote in Webster's whacking great dictionary. I suppose this behavior reflects some kind of psychological ailment. Just as some men of peculiar, extravagant taste can only get to sleep to the gentle simmering singing of one Rubundo's special iron kettles, so too perhaps my master cannot sleep without a book beside his pillow. It would seem that for my master a book is not a thing to be read, but a device to bring on slumber, a typographical sleeping pill, a paginated security blanket. One moment, please. I see a visitor. It's Hasamina. Oh my god. Good morning to you, and thank you once again for attending my reading session as usual. Taza, as we continue. I take a peep to see what he has brought tonight and find that he has fallen asleep with a slim red volume lying half open on his chin, with its top edge almost brushing his mustache. Judging by the fact that his left hand thumb is sandwiched between the pages, he must tonight have made a praiseworthy improvement on his usual performance to the extent of reading at least a line or two. Beside the bed, and its accustomed place, its cold grey surface a dull reflection of this warm spring night, his nickel watch lies gleaming. My master's wife, the nursling baby tumbled about a foot away from her, lies open-mouthed and snoring. Her head has slipped down from the pillow, and in my opinion, there is nothing more unbecoming in the human type than its indecent habit of sleeping with mouth left open. Never in a lifetime would a cat be caught in such degenerate conduct. The mouth and the nose have their separate functions. The former is provided for the making of sounds, and the latter is for respiratory purposes. However, in the northern lands the human creature has grown slothful and opens its mouth as seldom as little as possible. One obvious result of this muscular parsimony is that northern style of tight-lipped speech in which the words would seem to be enunciated through the nostril. That is bad, but is even worse when the nose is kept closed and the mouth assumes the respiratory functions. The result is not only unsightly, but could indeed, when rat shit drops from the rafters, involve real risk to health. As for the children, too, small scale reproductions of the indignities of their parents lie sprawled about on their bedding. Tonko, the elder daughter, as if to demonstrate the monstrous regimen of elder sisters, lies with her right arm stretched out so full that her fist is firmly planted against her sister's ear. In a kind of sleeping counter-attack, Sunko lies flat on her back with one leg flung across her sister's stomach. Both have managed to revolve through 90 degrees since properly positioned they drifted off to sleep, but perfectly at ease in their unnatural disposition, they slumber deeply on. There is something peculiarly moving about the faint illumination of the night lamp in the dark hours of spring, over the unpretentious but sadly inelegant interior scene of our dwelling. It casts a flickering radiance so sweet and gentle that seems to be inviting our gladdest marvelment at the beauty of this night. Wondering what time is, I look around the room. Dead silence reigned, broken only by the ticking of the wall clock, the snores of Mrs. Neese, and despite the distance and the relentless grinding of the servants' teeth, whenever they tell that old Sang woman of her grinding ways, she swears it isn't true. Obstinately, flatly, she takes her oath that never from the day since she was born, not that many babies turn up tusk, she has ever ground a tooth. She neither apologizes nor attempts to break the habit, just stubbornly insists that she doesn't remember ever having done such a thing. Since she does it in her sleep, it's probably true that she doesn't remember doing it. But in fact, but sorry, but facts, remembered or not, are all alas still facts. There are persons in this world having perpetrated villainies remain assured of their own absolute saintliness. They really do convince themselves that they are pure of any guilt. Such utter self-deception is, I dare say, a form of simple-mindedness, but however genuine the self-deception, if the actuality is objectionable to other people, it should be put down. As I lay there thinking that there's no real difference between our grinding skivvy and those evil-doing gentlefolk who think themselves so righteous, the night wore peacefully on. Suddenly, I hear a light double tapping on the wooden shutters of the kitchen entrance. Odd. People would hardly come visiting at this time of the night. It must be one of those damnable rats, so let it bump. As I mentioned earlier, I long ago decided never to catch rats. Then, once again, I heard a double tapping. Somehow it doesn't sound like a rat. If it is a rat, it must be an extremely cautious one, for the rats in my master's house, like the students at his school, devote their entire energies, both day and night, to the practice of righteous behavior, and seem to believe that they were only brought into this world to disrupt as violently as possible the dopey dreamings of the pitiable man. No rat of ours would make such modest noises. No, it is not a rat. Far too timid. The other night we had a rat come boldly into my master's bedroom, nip off a snippet of the tip of his already stunted nose, and then departed in a squeaking triumph. It just can't be a rat. As if to confirm my suspicion, the next sound that I hear is the scraping creak of the wooden shutter being lifted from its groove, and then I hear the sliding screen being eased sideways as quietly as possible. Beyond all doubt, it is not a rat. It can then but be a human. Even Waverhouse or Suzuki would hesitate at this late hour to lift the latch and walk in unannounced, and neither I think would go as far as dismantle a wooden shutter. Could it, I wonder, be one of those gentlemen burglars whom I've heard so much? If it really is a burglar, I would like to see what he looks like. As far as I can judge, two steps of muddy feet have so far been taken across the kitchen floor. The third must have been planted on one of those removable floorboards, for there was a sharp thwacking sound loud enough to echo through the silence of the night. I feel as if the fur on my back were being rubbed in the wrong direction with a boot brush. For a while there was no further sound, not even the stealthiest footsteps. Mrs. Nee snores gently on, sucking in and blowing out through her gaping gob of the beneficent air of this peaceful era. My master is probably dreaming some dream in which his thumb is trapped in a scarlet book. After a while, there comes the sound of a match being struck in the kitchen. Even a gentleman thief cannot, as I can, see in the dark. It must be very inconvenient for him. One moment, please. I see some new guests today. I mean, right now. Hello there, Isabella. Nice to meet you, Isabella. Good morning, Rico. Good morning. Nice to meet you, Isabella. Thank you so much for coming here. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you. All right, as I continue. At this point, I crouch well down and try to work out what moves the intruder would next make. Will he proceed hither from the kitchen by the way of the living room, or will he, turning left through the hall, make his way to the study? I hear the sound of a sliding door, and then footsteps on the veranda. He's gone to the study. Dead silence followed. It then occurred to me that it would be kind, while there was still time to wake my master and his wife. But how? A few impractical notions spins around inside my skull like water wheels, but I am not visited with any sensible ideas. It struck me that I might possibly rouse them by tugging at the bed covers. 2 or 3 times I tried worrying away at the lower end of the material, but my efforts had no effect. I then thought I might do better if I rubbed my wet, cold nose against my master's cheek. I accordingly put my muzzle to his face, but all I got for my trouble was a sharp smack on the snoot. He didn't even wake, but lifting his arm in his sleep, rapped me hard on the nose. The nose, even in cats, is a vulnerable area, and I suffered agonies. Nevertheless, I persisted. Since I could think of nothing else, I tried meowing at them. Indeed, I tried, at least twice. But somehow my throat just failed to function and no sound emerges. When at long last, and by enormous self-discipline, I did manage to emit a single feeble mew, I was quickly shocked back into silence, for though my master continued to just lie there like a log, suddenly I heard the interloper once more on the move. I heard the little creakings of the inexorable approach along the veranda. This, I think, is it. There's nothing more I can do. So, slipping in between the sliding door and its wickerwork trunk, I get myself into a position suitable at least for this stage of proceeding. A hidey hole from which, in the safety of concealment, I can spy upon a criminal at work. The footsteps advance along the veranda until they are immediately outside the paper door of my master's bedroom. There they stop dead. I dare not even breathe. My every nerve is at full stretch as I hunch down waiting for the thief's next move. I realized later that my feelings at that time were precisely those which I could expect to feel if I ever hunted rats. It was as though my very soul were about to pounce from my eyes. I am indebted to this thief that though long ago I resolved never to turn ratter, nevertheless I have been enlightened this once in my lifetime as to the nature of the hunting thrill. The next moment, a tiny area in the very middle of the third frame of the paper door began to change color, to darken as though it had been struck by a raindrop. As I stare at that dampened spot, I can see behind its darkening an object of pale scarlet. Suddenly the paper gives, and through it pokes the bare length of wet red tongue. The tongue seems to just pause there for a second, and then it vanishes into the darkness. In its place, a shiny thing, something menacingly glittery, appears in the tongue-lick hole, the eye of a thief. Strangely enough, that gleaming eye seems to disregard all other objects in the room and to be concentrating its gaze directly upon the place where I lurk behind the wicker-work trunk. Though that terrifying inspection cannot be lasted for even so much as a minute, I have never endured a stare so baleful or intense. So to be stared at burns away whole stretches at one's life expectancy. The scorching of that eye became intolerable, and I had made up my mind to jump out from behind the trunk when the paper door slid gently sideways and the thief was at last disclosed to my fascinated sight. One moment, please. I need hydration. Hello. Okay, I'm back. I'm back from hydration and now I'm gonna continue reading. Hello to all the viewers in my chat. If you have just joined not too long ago, we are currently reading Natsume Soseki's I Am a Cat, chapter volume 2, chapter 2. And now I shall continue. Though at this point it would be normal, in accordance with the established custom of the storyteller's art, to offer a description of this rare and unexpected visitor, I must beg the reader's indulgence for a small digression, of which the point and pertinence will in due course become clear. My digression takes form of a statement of my humble views upon the nature of omnipotence and omniscience, both human and divine, views upon which I would invite the discerning comment of all my honored readers. From the time immemorial God has been worshipped as omniscient and omnipotent. In particular, the Christian God, at least up to the 20th century, was honored for his alleged possession of those qualities. However, that alleged omniscience and omnipotence could well be regarded by the ordinary man in the street. In fact, their precise opposites, nescience and impotence. I believe that not since the world was first created has anyone preceded me in identifying this extraordinary paradox. It is, consequently, unavoidable that I should feel a certain pride of self-discovery, pride in this revelation that I am indeed no ordinary cat. It is, accordingly, to drive home to that numbskull human beings the unwisdom of sneering at cats that I offer the following analysis of the paradox which, if I had a name, would be named after its inimitable discoverer. I am informed that God created all things in this universe, from which it must follow that God that created man. In fact, I am advised that this proposition is specifically stated as a fundamental truth in some fat book which human beings call the Bible. Now, mankind has been engaged for several thousands of years in accumulation of human observations about the facts of humanity, from which mass of data one particular fact has emerged which not only causes humans being to wonder at, admire, and admire themselves, but also inclines them to acquire ever deepening credence in the omniscience and omnipotence of God. The particular fact in question is that fact that although mankind now teems upon this earth, no two human creatures have identical faces. The constituents of the human face are of course fixed: two eyes, two ears, a nose, and a mouth. Further, the general dimensions of those constituent items are more or less the same. Though myriads of human faces are thus all constructed from the same basic materials, all the final products differ from each other. The human reaction to this state of affairs is not only to rejoice in how bloody marvelous it is that each and every one of them commands an individuality of appearance, but also to admire the miraculous skill of the Creator who, using such simple and uniform materials, has yet produced such an infinite variety of results. For surely only a power of infinite originality of imagination could have created such almost incredible diversity. Even the greatest painters cannot produce, however strenuously he exerts himself in pursuit of variety, more than 12 or 13 individual masterpieces. So it is natural that mankind should marvel at God's astonishing and single-handed achievement in the production of people. Since such a protean creativity cannot be matched by men as themselves curators, inevitably they regard the process as a manifestation of divinity, and in particular a divine omnipotence, for which reasons human beings stand in the endless awe of God. And of course, considered from the human viewpoint, it is entirely understandable that they should. However, considered from the feline viewpoint, the same facts led to the opposite conclusion, that God, if not entirely impotent, it is at least of limited ability, even incompetent. Certainly no greater creative capability than muddle-headed man, God is supposed to have created of intent as many faces as there are people, but surely one cannot just dismiss the possibility that in fact he lacked sureness of touch, that though he originally intended to create every man jack of mankind with the same face, he found the task impossible, and that he consequently produced so long a string of botched appearances as to end up with the present disorderly state of human physiognomy. Thus, variformity of the human faces can equally well be regarded either as a demonstration of God's success or evidence of his failure. Lacking knowledge of his original creative intent, one can only say that the evidence of the human face argues no more strongly for God's omnipotence than it does for his incompetence. Consider the human eyes. They are embedded in pairs within a flat surface, and their owners therefore cannot simultaneously see both of their left and rights. It is regrettable, but only one side of any object can, and at any one time, enter their field of vision. Being thus incapable of seeing the round, even the daily happenings of its own society, it is perhaps not surprising that man should get so excited about certain one-sided aspects of his limited view of reality, and in particular should allow himself to fall into awe of God. Any creature capable of seeing things must recognize that, if it is difficult to create infinite variations, it is equally difficult to create absolute similitude. Had Raphael had ever been asked to paint two absolutely identical portraits of the Madonna, he would find it no less irksome than to be pressed for two pictures of the subject in which every single detail was totally different. Indeed, it is probable that the painting of identical portraits would prove the harder task. Kobodaishi was not only the great teacher, but also a master calligrapher. But had he been asked one morning to inscribe two characters of his own name in exactly the same style he had done the day before, he would have found it more difficult than to write them differently. Consider too the nature of language learning. Human beings learn their various tongues purely by imitation. They reproduce without any display of initiative or inventiveness. Good morning. Yes, the cat has indeed become really fat. The noises made by the daily mouthing. Also, good morning, Umyaboshi. Thank you for dropping by. The noises made by the daily mouthing of their mothers, nurses, and whomever else they may happen to hear, to the best of their ability they imitate. Nevertheless, in the course of 1 or 2 decades, the language thus produced by imitation show distinct changes in pronunciation, which imply demonstrates which amply demonstrates the human inability to make perfect imitations. Exact imitation is extremely difficult to achieve. Now, if God has shown himself to create human beings indistinguishable from each other, that would have been impressive. If every single one of them appeared with the self-same features like so many mold-cast masks of a fat-faced woman, then indeed would God's omnipotence have been tellingly demonstrated. But the actual state of affairs, a situation of which God had let loose under the sun all matter of different faces, would well be taken to prove the limited competence of his creative power. I must confess that I have now forgotten why I embarked upon this digression. However, since similar forgetfulness is common among mankind, I trust a lapse will be found pardonable in a cat. The fact that the foregoing thoughts leaped naturally to my mind the moment the paper door slid open, and I at last clapped my eyes upon the thief. Why so, you may ask? Why should the sudden appearance of a thief upon the threshold prompt this closely reasoned, this irrefutable critique of the divine omnipotence? As I said, I have forgotten why, but if I may have the moment to recollect my train of thought, I am sure I can find the reason. Ah, yes, I have it. One moment, please. I have a guest with me. Ah, it's Axia. Thank you so much for dropping by once again. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. Alrighty. When I looked at the thief's calm face, I was so struck by one peculiarity that my long-held theories about God's incompetence as a face creator seemed that instant to the crumbling down to the nothing. For the peculiarity was that the thief's face was the spitting image of the handsome face of our much-loved Avalon Coal Moon. Naturally, I lacked the acquaintances among the bulgering fraternity, but basing my judgment on their outrageous behaviors, I had formed my own private picture of a burglar's face. But the face of this particular burglar did not match my image. I had always assumed that a burglar's nostril would be widely splayed to the left and right, and that his eyes would be as big and round as a copper coin's, and that his hair would be close cropped. But there is a vast difference between the fancied and the fact, so vast one should always be wary of giving free rein to one's imagination. This thief is tall and slimly built, with a charmingly darkish complexion and straight, level eyebrows. Altogether, a very modish sort of burglar. He seems, again, like Coleman, to be about 26 or 27. Indeed, a god so deft as to be able to produce this startling likeness cannot possibly be regarded as incompetent. To tell the truth, The resemblance is so close that my immediate astonished reaction was to wonder whether bursting in like this in the middle of the night, Coleman had gone mad. It was only when I noticed the absence of any signs of budding mustache that I realized that this intruder could not possibly be Coleman. Coleman is Coleman is both masculine and handsome. He has been manufactured by God with such especial care that it is proper that he should easily besought that walking credit card Miss Opula Goldfield. Yet, to judge from his appearance, this thief's power to attract women can be no less strong than Coleman's. If the Goldfield girl is besotted by Coleman's eyes and mouth, it will be no more than a matter of courtesy that she should go into similar ardent raptures over those of this burglar. Quite apart from the question of courtesy, it would be contrary to the logic if she failed to love him. Being so naturally quick-minded and intelligent, she would of course immediately grasp the point, and it would follow that if she were offered the burglar as a substitute for Coleman, she would, body and soul, adore him and live with him in conjugal felicity till death did them part. Even if Coleman so succumbs to the wills of Waverhouse that this very rare and excellent match is broken off, still so long as the burglar remains alive and well, there is no real cause for concern. Having thus projected the possible train of future events, I, purely for Miss Schofield's sake, relieved and reassured. This noble burglar exists as a husband in reverse is, I think, likely to be important to her happiness in life. One moment, please. I'm going to greet my new guest. It is Tasty. Thank you so much, Tasty, for attending the reading session. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are the best. Absolute best. Absolute best. Absolute best. I really, 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 really appreciate each and every one of you. And thank you, Coco. You are amazing. And also, Isabella, as a fellow Allison, you are absolutely beautiful. So beautiful. Okay, let's continue. The thief is carrying something under his arm. Peering, I discovered I discover that it's that decrepit blanket which a little earlier on my master had pitched away from into his study. The thief is dressed in a short coat of cotton drawn tight below his bottom with a sash of blue-gray silk. His pallid legs are bare from the knees down. Gently he extends one foot from the veranda, sets it off softly on the bedroom matting, at which moment my dozing master, no doubt still dreaming that his finger is being savaged by a scarlet book, turns over in his sleep, and as he slumps with a heavy thud into a new position, suddenly shouts, "It's Coleman!" The burglar drops the blanket and whips back as though he had trodden on a scorpion. Through the flimsy paper of the sliding door, I see the silhouette of two long legs tremble. My master grunts in his sleep, mumbles something meaningless, and knocks his red book sideways, and then begins a noisy scratching on his dark-skinned arm as though he had caught the scurvy. He suddenly goes quiet and lies there fast asleep with his head off in off the pillow. His shout of cold moon recognition relates not to reality, but to some incident of dream. Nevertheless, for quite a little while the burglar stood silent on the veranda, watching the room from any further liveliness. Satisfied at last that my master and his wife are safely deep in sleep, he reintroduced one cautious spirit. There is, this time, no commentary on cold moon. Almost at once the second foot appears. The glow of the night lamp, which hitherto had bathed the whole of the six-mat bedroom, is now sharply segmented by the shadow of the thief. An utter darkness has fallen upon the wickerwork trunk and reaches halfway up the wall behind it. I turn my head and see the shadow of the intruder's skull drifting about the wall some two-thirds of the way up to the ceiling. Though the man is certainly handsome, the misshapen shadow of his head, like some deformed potato, is positively ludicrous, while for a while he stood there, staring at Mrs. Nee's face, and then, suddenly, for goodness what reason, broke into a grin. I was surprised to find that if even in such aimless grinning he was a twin to Coleman. Lying close to Mrs. Nee's pillow there is a oblong box, perhaps 15 inches long and some 4 inches broad. The lid is nailed down fast and the box itself is placed as to suggest that its contents must be precious. It is in fact a box of yams, which just the other day Mr. Tatara Sampe presented to the sneezes on his return from holiday at the family's country in the Karatsu. It is, one must admit, rather unusual to go to sleep with yams to decorate one's bedside, but Mrs. Neese is a lady little troubled by notions of propriety of placement. He keeps high quality cooking sugar in chests of drawers, so the presence in her bedroom of pickles, let alone yams, would hardly even ruffle her placid unconcern. But the burglar, a non-participant in the alleged omniscience of God, could hardly be expected to have such knowledge of her nature, and it is consequently understandable that he should jump into the conclusion that a box so carefully kept within hand's reach of a sleeping woman is certain to be worth removing. He lifts and hefts the box. Finding its weight matches his expectations, he nods in satisfaction. It suddenly struck me as extremely funny that this gentleman thief, this very prepossessing burglar, was about to waste his expert skills in vegetable ferocity. However, since it could be dangerous to make my presence heard, I hold back the laughter bursting to escape. The burglar wraps the yam box carefully in the blanket and looks round the room for something with which to tie the bundle. His eye lights up upon the sash that my master threw down on the floor when he was undressing for bed. The burglar ties and knots the sash around the yam box and hoists it smoothly onto his back. I doubt if women would be attracted to the figure he now presents. He proceeds to stuff two of the children's sleeveless jackets into my master's knitted underpants. Each of the leg parts looks like snakes that has swallowed a frog. Perhaps the swollen ugliness would be rather compared to the shape of some pregnant serpent. At all events, the shape produced was rather odd and ugly. If you don't believe me, try it yourself. Then the thief then tied the pants round his neck, leaving his hand free for further rummaging. Wondering what he'll nobble next, I watched him closely. He spreads out my master's silk kimono on the floor neatly and quickly, piles upon it Mrs. Nee's obi, my master's haori, his remaining underwear together with various bits and bobs which he finds about the room. I am deeply impressed by the sheer professionalism of his larceny, this technical polish of his packaging and parcel work. First, he fashions a long silk cord by knotting Mrs. Nee's obi string to her waistband fastener. With this cord, he ties his loot into a tidy package and lifts the lot with one hand. Taking a last look around, he spots a packet of cheap gaspers lying beside my master's head. He shoves the packet into his sleeve, but on second thought, takes it out again and carefully selecting a cigarette and bends to light it at the flame of the night lamp. He inhales deeply, like a man content with a job well done, before the exhaled smoke had thinned to nothingness around the milky glass of the night lamp chimney. The sound of the burglar's footfall had faded away into silent distance. Husband and wife remained deep sunk in slumber, contrary even to their own idea of themselves. Human beings are so careless and unwary. I myself feel quite worn out by the night's excitements, and if I now continue this account of them, I shall have some kind of breakdown. I slept both deep and late, so that when I finally awoke, the sun was already bright in the blue spring sky. My master and his wife were talking to a policeman at the kitchen entrance. I see. You reckon he entered here and then walked around toward the bedroom? And you two were asleep and noticed nothing at all? That's right. My master seems a bit embarrassed. And about what time did this burglary take place? The policeman asked the usual silly question. If one could he be in a position to state the hour of such an offense, the chances that no offense would have occurred. My master and his wife seems not to realize at this point and take the question in real earnest. I wonder when abouts it was. Well, let me think, says Mrs. Nees. She seems to imagine that by taking thought one fixed the time of events that took place when one was unconscious. What was the time? She asked her husband. When you went to bed? It was after that I went to bed. Yes, she agrees. I went to bed before you did. I wonder what time I woke up. I think it was 7:30. So what time would that make it when the thief broke in? It must, I suppose, have been some time in the dead of night. Of course, it was some time of the dead of night, but what I'm asking you is the particular time. Well, that I can't just say for certain. Not until I have a good think. She's still committed to her thinking ways. The policeman had only asked this potty question as a matter of form, and in fact he is totally indifferent as to the precise time of which the burglar broke in. All he wants is that my master and his wife should give some kind of an answer. Any answer, never mind whether true or not, would do. But victims engage in such pointless and protracted dialogue that the policeman shows signs of irritation. Eventually, he snaps at them. Right then, so the time of the burglary is not known, is that correct? I suppose it does come down to that, my master answers in his usual dryly pedagogic manner. The policeman was not amused. He plodded stolidly on in accordance with his own routine of police procedure. In that case, you should send in a written statement of complaint to the effect that on such and such date in this 38th year of the Meiji era, you have fastened the entrance to your dwelling, retired to bed, and that subsequently a burglar have removed such and such a sliding wooden shutter, sneaked into such and such a room or rooms, and there stole such and such items of property. Remember, paper is just not a statement of lost goods, but constitutes a formal complaint which may later be used as an accusation. You'd be advised not to address it to anyone in particular. Do we have to identify every single item that's been stolen? Yes. Set it all out in a detailed list. Coats, for instance, set down how many have gone and the value of each one taken. No, he went on to answer my master's next question. I don't think it would help much if I stepped inside. The burglary has already taken place, with which unhelpful comment he took himself off. My master, having planted himself with his writing brush and inkstone in the very centre of the room, calls his wife to come and sit beside him. Then, almost in belligerence, he announces, I shall now compose a written statement of complaint. Tell me what's been stolen, item by item, sharp if you please. What a cheek! Who do you think you are to tell me to look sharp? If you talk to me in that dictatorial manner, I shall tell you nothing. Her toilet incomplete, she plunked herself down sulkily beside him. Just look at yourself. You might be some cheap tart at some post town inn. Why aren't you wearing an obi? If you don't like how I look, buy me decent clothes. A post town tart indeed. How can I dress correctly when half my stuff been stolen? He took your obi? What a despicable thing to do. Alright then, we'll start with that. What kind of obi it was? What do you mean, what kind? How many obi do you think I've got? It was my black satin with the crepe lining. One obi of black satin lined with crepe. And what would you say it cost? About 6 yen? Oh, I have a visitor, I think. Let me greet my... Oh, it's people! Good morning, people. Good morning. Good morning. See ya soon, Chloe. About 6 yen, I think. 6 yen? That's far too expensive. You know we can't afford to fling our money about on fripperies. Don't spend more than 1 yen 50 cent on the replacement. And where do you think you would find a decent obi at that price? As I always say, you are totally heartless. You couldn't care less how wretchedly your wife may be dressed, so long as you yourself look reasonably turned out. Alright, we'll drop the matter. Now what's next? A surcoat woven with thrown silk. It was given to me as a keepsake by my Aunt Kono. You won't find surcoats this day of that quality. I didn't ask for the lecture of the decline of textile. What would it cost? No less than 15 yen. You mean you've been going around in a surcoat worth not less than 15 yen? That's real extravagance. A standard of living miles beyond our means. Oh, why does it matter? You didn't even buy it. What's the next item? One pair of black foot gloves. Yours? Don't be silly. Who ever heard of a woman wearing black one? They are yours, of course, and the price 27 sen. Next, one box of yam. Did he even filch the yams? I wonder how he'll eat them. Stewed, do you think? Or in some kind of soup? How the devil should I know? You better run along and ask him. What were they worth? I wouldn't know the price of yam. Well, in that case, let's say 12 yen 50 cent. That's ridiculous! How could a box of yam, even one grown down in Kyushu, and then be transported here, cost as much as that? You said you didn't know what they would cost. I did, and I don't. But 12 yen 50 cent would be plain absurd. Far, far too much. How can you say in one and in the same breath that you don't know their price, but that 12 yen 50 cent is absurd? It makes no sense at all, except to prove that you are an ontanchin paleocologist. That I'm what? That you're an on-tanchim paleocologist. What's that? One can hardly blame the lady, though long experience have given me a certain facility in decoding my master's thought as expressed in vile puns and twisted references to Japanese provincial slang and musty tracts of Western scholarship. This particular demonstration of his skills is both sillier and more obscure than usual. I am still not sure that I understand his full intention, but I suspect he meant no more than that he thought his wife is a blockhead. Why then didn't he just leave it at Ontanchin? Because despite his chimeras attack on her balding pate, he lacks the guts to risk a head-on clash, and he's not entirely certain she has never heard of the slang for a fool. So what does he do? He sees a similarity of sound between Ontanchin and Constantine, the name of the pa- pale, paleo, paleolog emperor of Byzantium. God, this is hard. Some pronunciation is really hard for me. I'm so sorry. Not that the sound are sufficiently similar to justify a pun. Not that the Constantine of the 11th has any remote connection with the price of yams. Not that such truths would sway my master. He simply wants to call his wife a blockhead without having to cope with the consequences of doing so. No wonder Mrs. Neese is foxed, and no wonder he presses for an explanation. Never mind about that. What's next on the list? You haven't even mentioned my own kimono. Never mind one about what's next. Just tell me what Ontanchin Paleologs means. It hasn't gotten any meaning. You're so excessively clever that I'm sure you could explain what it means if you wanted to. What kind of a fool do you take me for? I bet you have been calling me names by taking advantage of the fact that I can't speak English. Stop talking nonsense and get on with the rest of the list. If we aren't quick in lodging the complaint, we'll never get our property returned. It's already too late to make an effective complaint. I'd rather you told me something more about Ontonchin's Paleologus. You're really making a nuisance of yourself. As I said before, it has no meaning whatsoever. There's nothing more to be said. Well, if that's how you feel, I've nothing more to say about the list. What a pig-headedness! Have it your way! I won't then write out this complaint for you. Suit yourself, but don't come bothering me for details of what's missing. It's you, not me, who's lodging the complaint. I just don't care two hoots whether you write it or you don't. Then forget about it, snaps my master. In his usual abrupt manner, he gets up and stalks off into his study. Mrs. Neese retires to the living room and dumps herself down in front of her sewing box. For some 10 minutes this precious pair sits glaring in silence at the paper door between them. That situation when Mr. Tatara Sanpei, donor of yam, came bursting gaily in through the front door. This Tatara was once the sneeze's houseboy, but nowadays, having received his degree in law, he works in the mining department of some big company or other. Like Bud Jr. too, Slippery Suzuki, he's another budding businessman. Nevertheless, because of his former connection with the family, he still occasionally visits the humble dwelling of his erstwhile benefactor. Indeed, having once been almost one of that family, he sometimes spends whole Sundays in the house. "What a wonderful weather, Mrs. Niece!" He sits on the floor in front of her, with his trousered knees drawn up, speaks as ever in his own Karatsu dialect. "Why, hello, Mr. Tatara! Is the master out?" "No, he's in the study." "It's bad for health to study as hard as he does. Today's a Sunday, and Sundays don't come every day of the week, now do they?" "There's no point in telling me. Go say it to my husband." "Yes, but—" He looks around the room and then asks his hostess. "The girls now, they're not in?" But words are hardly out of his mouth when Tonko and Sunko both run in from the next room. "Mr. Tatara, have you brought the goodies?" Tonko, the elder daughter, wastes no time in reminding him of a recent promise. Tatara scratches his head. "What a memory you've got! I'm sorry I forgot them, but really next time I promise to remember." "What a shame!" says Tonko, and her younger sister immediately echoes, "What a shame!" Mrs. Niece, in a modest revival of her natural good humor, smiles slightly. "I confess I forgot a raw fish goodies, but I did bring around some yams. Have you two girls yet tried them?" "What's a yam?" asks Tonko, and the little Miss Echo pipes up with, "What's a yam?" "Ah, so you have not eaten them yet. Ask your mother to cook you some at once. Karatsu yams are especially delicious, quite different from those you get in Tokyo." As Tatara tootles away on his provincial trumpet, Mrs. Sneeze remembers to thank him again for his kindness. "It was really kind of you, Mr. Tatara, to bring us the yams the other day, and so many of them. Such a generous thought. Well, have you eaten them? I had the box specially made so that they wouldn't get broken up. I hope you found them undamaged and in their full length." "I'm sure we would have, but sorry to say, only last night the whole lot was stolen by a burglar." "You've been burgled for yams? What a peculiar criminal! I've never have dreamt that passions for yams, even karatsu yam, would be carried so far." Tatara is enormously impressed. One second, please. I need to hydrate. Hello. Back. "Mother," says Tonko, "was there a burglar here last night?" "Yes," Mrs. Neese answers slightly. "A burglar? Here? A real burglar?" Sunko voices wonderment but immediately goes on to ask, "What sort of face did he have?" Mrs. Neese, stumped by this curious question, finds something suitable to say. "He had," she says, looking over at Tatara for sympathetic understanding, "a most fearsome face." Sorry. "Do you mean," asked the tactless Tonko, "that he looked like Mr. Tatara?" "Really, Tonko, that's very rude of you." "Dear, oh dear," laughed the visitor. "Is my face as fearsome as all that?" He once scratches his head. There's a bald patch about an inch across on the back of his head. It began to appear not much more than a month ago that he had taken it round to the quack. It shows no sign of improvement. It is, of course, Tonko who draws attention to the patch. "Why, look!" she says. "Mr. Tatara's head is shiny, just like mother's." "Tonko, behave yourself! I told you to be quiet." "Was the thief's head shiny too?" Sunko innocently asked. In spite of themselves, the adult burst out laughing. Still, the children chatter so interrupts all conversations that Mrs. Sneeze decided to pack them off. "Run along now and play in the garden. Be good girls, and later on I'll find you both some sweeties." After the both girls had gone, Mrs. Sneeze turned to Tatara and with all the gravity of fellow sufferer enquired, "Mr. Tatara, what has happened to your head?" "Some kind of skin infection. Not exactly moth, but a bug of some sort which take ages to clear." "Are you having the same trouble?" "Ugh, don't talk about bugs. In my case, the trouble is the usual female problem of the hair thinning because it's drawn so tight in the married woman's hairstyle." "All baldness is caused by bacteria?" "Well, mine's not." "Come, come, Mrs. Niece, you're being obstinate. One cannot fly in the face of scientific facts." Oops. "Say what you like, it's not bacteria. But tell me, what's the English word for baldness?" Tatara said he wasn't sure, but he answered her correctly. "No, no," she said, "not that. It's a very much longer word. Why not ask your husband? He could tell you straight off. I'm asking you precisely because he refuses to help." "Well, all I know is baldness. You say the word you want as much longer. Can you give me an idea of the sound of it?" "Ontanchin paleologist. I have an idea of Ontanchi means bald, and paleologist means head." "Possibly. I'll pop into the master study a little later and look it up for you in the Webster's dictionary. By the way, the master's is eccentric, isn't he? Fancy staying indoors and doing nothing on a lovely day. No wonder his stomach troubles never get better. Why don't you persuade him to go and view the flowers at Ueno?" "Please, you ask him." "Oh, do I?" Ta 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 ta. Thank you for the reminder, Taza. "Please, you ask him. He never listens to what a woman says. Is he still licking jam?" Oh, we have a visitor. Let me say hello to our visitor today. Hello, Endo. I remember you from one of the readings. Thank you so much for attending the reading session once again. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sorry, that bench doesn't really work, so. But you look really good right there. Alright, let me see. Right? Okay, get a good angle of everyone. Alright, there you go. Oops, sorry, I keep moving the mic. It's very loud. Is he still licking jam? Yes, as always. The other day he was complaining that you're always telling him he overdoes it. But she's wrong, he said. I really don't eat all that much. So I told him the obvious answer was that you and the girls are also fond of jam. Mr. Tatara, how could you say such a thing? But Mrs. Niece, you've got a jam licker's face. How could you tell a thing like that from looking at someone's face? I can't, of course, but honestly, Mrs. Niece, don't you ever take any? Well, naturally, I sometimes take a little. And why shouldn't I? After all, it's ours. Tatara laughs right out. I thought that was the answer, but seriously, he said, adopting a more somber tone. That was really bad luck about the burglar. Was it only yams that he filched? If it were only yams, we wouldn't be so upset. But he has taken all of our everyday clothing. Then you are really in trouble. Will you have to borrow money again? If this thing were a dog, not just an idle cat, what a difference that might have been had. Honestly, you ought to keep a dog, a big sturdy dog. Cats are practically useless. All they do is eat. This cat, for instance, has it ever even caught a rat? Not a single one. It's very lazy and an impudent cat. Ah, that's terrible. You must get rid of it at once. Shall I take it along with me? Boiled, they're really quite good eating. Don't tell me you eat cats! Yes, indeed. Every now and then they taste delicious. You must have a remarkably strong stomach. I have heard that among these degraded houseboys there are some so close to outright barbarism that they do in fact eat cats. But not until now had I ever dreamt that our Tatara, a person with whom I had long been quite on terms of quiet coziness, could be so base a creature. Of course, he's not our houseboy any longer. Far from it. Though barely out of university, he is now not only a distinguished Bachelor of Law but also a rising executive in the well-known limited company Mutsui Products. I was therefore more than surprised. The proverb says, when you see a man, take him for a felon. The truth of the adage has been well demonstrated by the thieving conduct of last night's pseudo coal moon. Now, thanks to Tatara, I have just invented another proverb. Proverb. When you see a man, take him for a fellow flash. The longer one lives in this wicked world, the more one learns. It's always good to learn, but as one accumulates knowledge of the world's wickedness, one grows ever the more cautious, ever the more prepared for the worst. Artfulness, uncharitableness, self-defensive wariness, these are the fruits of worldly learnings. The penalty of age is this rather ugly knowingness, which would seem to explain why one never finds among all a single decent person. They know too much to see things straight, to feel things cleanly, to act without compromise. Thinking that there might be some merit in departing this world while still in my prime, I was making myself small in the corner lest such a departure should be forced upon me in the company of onions stewing in Tatara's pot. When my master, drawn from his study by the sound of Tatara's voice, slouched back into the living room. I hear, sir, you have been burgled. What a stupid thing to have happened. Tatara opens the conversation somewhat bluntly. That yam purloiner was certainly stupid. My master has no doubt whatsoever of his own profound intelligence. Indeed, the thief was so stupid, but his victim wasn't exactly clever. Perhaps those with nothing worth stealing, people like Mr. Tatara, are the cleverest of all. Rather surprisingly, Mrs. Sneezes comes out on her husband's side. Anyways, one thing's clear. This cat is totally useless. The spinning frog is the spinning frog is from a streamer called Moon Moon. I'll give you sub one day. Also, move my character. Also, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you. All right, let's continue. Anyway, one thing's clear, that this cat is totally useless. Really, one can't imagine what it thinks it's for. It catches no rats. It sits calmly by while a burglar breaks in. It serves no purpose whatsoever. How about you letting me take it? Well, says my master, maybe I will. What would you do with it? Cook it and eat it. On hearing the ferocious proposition, my master gave vent to a sinister wail of dyspeptic laughter, but he answered neither yes or no. This, to my mingled surprise and glad relief, seems to satisfy Tatara, for he pressed no further with his disgusting proposal. For a brief pause, my master, changing the subject, remarks, "The cat doesn't matter, but I do object most strongly to anyone stealing my clothes. I feel so cold." He looks indeed dispirited. Dispirited, and no wonder he feels cold. Until yesterday, he was wearing two quilted kimonos, but today, wearing only a single line kimono, a short sleeved shirt. He's been sitting about since morning and has taken no exercise. What a little blood he has is totally engaged in keeping his miserable stomach going, so naturally it doesn't get round to his arm and legs. It's hopeless being a teacher. Your world gets turned upside down by a mere burglar. It's still not too late to make the change. Why not come into the business world? Since my scholarly spouse just doesn't care for businessmen, it's a waste of time to even suggest the idea. Mrs. Neese, of course, would be delighted to see him go into business. One moment, please. I see a new visitor. It is Zenny Frixel. Thank you very, very much for attending my reading session. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Alrighty. Let me get a good angle of everyone in frame. Alright, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Thank you for Alice of Tear for following me. So sorry I didn't realize it. Thank you, Alice of Tear. Thank you so much. I'll change the follower goal to 14 like after this stream. Thank you so much for the follow, guys. Thank you. Alrighty. How many years is it, Tatara asked, since you took your degree? 8 years, I think, answers Mrs. Neese, looking towards her husband. My master neither confirms nor denies the period. 8 years, and your pay is the same on the day you started. How hard you study. No one appreciates your merits. All by himself, the master is and lonely. For Mrs. Nee's benefit, Tatara's quotes a scrap of Chinese poetry remembered from his days of middle school. Since she fails to understand him, she makes no answer. Of course I don't like teaching, but I dislike commerce even more. My master seems to be a bit uncertain in his own mind what is it he does like. Oh, sorry, I forgot to. Alrighty. He dislikes everything, says Mrs. Neese. Well, anyway, I'm sure he doesn't dislike his wife. Tatara makes an unexpected sally. I dislike her most of all. My master's comment is extremely terse. Oh shit. Oh my god. Imagine telling a guest that he dislikes his wife the most. Oh my goodness. Mrs. Sneeze turns slightly away, and her face stiffens, but she then looks back at her husband and says, as if she thought she were getting a good dig in at him, "I suppose you'll be saying next that you dislike living." "True," came his offhand answer, taking the wind clean out of her sails. "I don't like living much." His way past praying for. Oops! It's another visitor. It is Kada Katzenberg. Hello, Kada Katzenberg. Thank you very, very, very much for dropping by. Thank you so much for attending this reading session. I really appreciate it. I really do. Session. Come have a seat. Alrighty. Oh, meanwhile, I'll take a quick sip of tea. Alrighty, I'm back. Oh, is there another visitor? Oh my god. Alter Axia. Is that... Okay, I know who that is. it's it's Axia, but alt character Axia. Alright. Alrighty. Let's continue. You should go for a brisk walk every now and then. Staying indoors all day must be ruining your health. And what's more, you really should become a businessman. Making money is as simple as pie. Look who's talking. You yourself aren't exactly rolling in it. Ah, well, but I only joined the company last year. Even so, I've more saved up than you have. How much you have saved up? Inevitably, Mrs. Neese rises to such bait and puts the question with real earnestness. 50 yen already. And how much is your salary? Again, Mrs. Neese who asked the questions. 30 yen a month. The company retains 5 yen and save it up for me. In emergency, I can draw the accumulated capital. Really, why? Why don't you buy some tramway shares with your PIN money? Their value will double within 3 or 4 months. Indeed, anyone with a bit of capital could double, even triple his money in next to no time. If I had any PIN money, Mrs. Nee somewhat sourly observed, I wouldn't now be a gum tree on account of some petty theft. That's why I keep saying your husband should go into business. For instance, if he had studied law and then joined a company or a bank, he would by now be earning 300 or 400 yen a month. It seems a shame he didn't. By the way, sir, do you happen to know a man called Suzuki Tojiro who got his degree in engineering? Yes, he called here only yesterday. So you have seen him then. I ran into him a few days back at a party, and your name cropped up. I said I'd once been a member of your household, and he replied that he and you had once shared lodgings at some temple in Koishikawa. Next time you see him, he said, please give him my kindest regard and say I'll be looking him up one of these days. I gather he's recently been transferred back to Tokyo. That's right. Only the other day he was pining away somewhere down in Kyushu, but he has just moved up to the head office here in Tokyo. He's a smooth lad, that one. Smooth as a keg of lacquer. He even takes the trouble to speak engagingly to me. Have you any idea how much he earns? Not the foggiest. Well, on top of his basic monthly pay of 250 yen, he'll be getting bonuses twice a year in July and December, so that his overall income can't be less than 4 or 500 yen each month. To think that a man like that can be coining the stuff while you, a teacher of English reader, can scarcely make ends meet. It's a lunatic state of affairs. Lunatic's the word. Even a man as snooty and superior as my master is no different from the herd of his fellow men when it comes to matters of money. Indeed, the very fact that he skinned the whole year long makes him rather more keenly than most to get his claws on some copper. However, having spoken at such length at the marvels of making money, Tatara has now exhausted his stock of slogans about the beatitudes of business life, so he turns to Mrs. Niece on a totally different tack. Does a man called Coleman come visiting your husband? Yes, often. What sort of fellow is he? I'm told he's a brilliant scholar. Handsome, would you say? Mrs. Niece permits herself as unbecoming titter. I would say that he looks. Oh my God. Mrs. Niece permits herself an unbecoming titter. I would say that in looks, he's just about as good looking as you. Is that so? About as good looking as me? How do you come to be interested in Coleman? Inquires my master. The other day someone asked me to ask around about him. Is he a man of worth making enquiries about? Even before he gets an answer, Tatara shows by his condescending tone that he doesn't think much of Coleman. As a man, says my master, that he's a great deal more impressive than you. Is he now more impressive than me? Characteristically, Tatara neither smiles nor seems offended. A sensitive man of the utmost self-control? A dense, unfeeling undullard, need one ask? He eats cats, doesn't he? But tell me, will this Coleman fellow be getting a doctorate one of these days? I'm told he's writing a thesis now. So he's a fool after all, writing a thesis for a doctorate indeed. I would expected him to be brighter than that. You don't have fancy yourself, says Mrs. Niece with a laugh. You always reckon yourself as the bee's knees and the cat's whiskers. But what's so foolish about being well educated? Someone told me that once this Coleman gets his doctorate, then he'll be given someone's daughter. Something like that. So of course I said, a man's a fool who works for a doctorate just to marry a girl. Someone should not marry someone's daughter and to anyone so foolish. Better for, I said, someone's daughter to marry me. My master wobbled his head. To whom did you say all that? To the man who asked me to ask around about Coleman. Suzuki? Golly, no. I wouldn't be bandying words with a big shot like that on such a delicate manner. At least, not yet, I wouldn't. A lion at home, a wood louse in the open, says Mrs. Niece. You talk big, Mr. Tatara. When you are here with us, I bet you curl up small and quiet when you talk to Mr. Suzuki. Of course I do. It would be foolhardy to do anything else. One wrong word and I could be out on my ear. Tatara, my master suddenly breaks in. Let's go out for a walk. Sitting here in the scanty remnants of his wardrobe, he has grown to feel downright frozen, and the thought has just filtered through that the exercise of walking might warm him up a little. There can be no other explanation for such an unprecedented suggestion. Tatara, the unpatrine person, the seaweed in the tide flow of the world that breed which bends to the lightest wind, doesn't even hesitate. Yes, indeed, let's go. How about Ueno? Let's try some of the Imozaka's famous dumpling. Have you ever tried those dumplings? You too, Mrs. Niece. Sometimes you really ought, if only just once, to try them. They are beautifully soft and even more beautifully cheap. They serve sake as well. Tatara was still babbling about dumplings when my master, his hat on his head, was ready on the doorstone waiting to leave. Myself, I need rest. There's no conceivable reason why I should keep watch upon. Still, let's record how my master and Tatara behaved at Ueno Park, how many plates of dumplings they consumed, and what other pointless happenings transpired. In any case, I lack the energy to trail along after them. I shall therefore skip all mentions of their afternoon doings and instead relax. All curated things are entitled to demand of their curators some rest for recreation. We are born with an obligation to keep going while we can. And if, like maggots wriggling in the fabric of this world, we are to keep thrashing on about down here, we do need to rest to do it. If the curator should take the line, and I'm born to work and not to sleep, I would agree that I am indeed born to work, but I would also make the unanswerable point that I cannot work unless I also rest. Even my master, that timid but complaining crank in the grinding mechanism of our national education, sometimes, though it costs him money, takes a weekday off. I am no human cog. I am a cat, as sensitive to the most subtle shades of thought and feeling. Naturally, I tire more quickly than my master. Naturally, I need more sleep. But I confess I am a little worried by Tatara's recent travesty of my case. His wicked his wicked misrepresentation of my natural need for sleep as evidence of my practical uselessness. Philistine as he, such as Philistines such as he, creatures responsive only to the crudest material phenomena, cannot appreciate anything deeper than the surface appearances recorded by their five core senses unless one is rigged out in the navy's clubber, and the sweat can be seen and smelt as it pours from one's brow and armpits. Such persons can't conceive that one is working. I have heard there was a Zen priest called, I fancy, Bodhidharma, who remained so long immobilized in spiritual meditation that his legs just rotted away, that he made no move, even when Evie crept up through the wall and their spreading suckers sealed his eyes and mouth. Did not mean that the priest was sleeping or dead. On the contrary, his mind was very much alive. Legless in the bond of dusty vegetation, Bodhidharma came to grasp such brilliantly stylish truth as the notion that, since Zen is of itself so vast and illumining, there can be no appreciable distinction between saints and mediocrities. What's more, I understand that the followers of Confucius also practice forms of meditation, though not perhaps to the extent of self immurement. and of training their flesh to crippledom of idleness. 1 second, hydration. I am back. Thank you, Dian, for my favorite Borpa spin. All such meditants have powers burning in the brain that a lot more fierce than anything non meditants could possibly conceive. But because the outward appearance of these spiritual giants are so solemn, calm, unutterably serene, that the fat head nincompoops who come and stare at them can see nothing more than ordinary persons in states of coma, catatonia, and even simple syncope. Such mediocrity slender, their betters as drones and layabouts. But the fault lies in the very ordinaries of the eyes of ordinary people. For, in truth, their eyesight is defective in their glances merely slither over the external appearances, never pierce through the spiritual inwardness. Now, it is understandable that a man like Tatara Sanpei, that personification of all things superficial, would only see shit on a shovel if, undergoing the Zen test of a man's ability to find purity amongst impurities, he were shown a shitten shovel. But it grieves me to the core to find that my master, who, after all, has read fairly widened, and ought to be able to see some little way beyond the mere surface of things, should nevertheless see so readily occur in the flippantijibut. Oh my god. There are a lot of like really hard words, bro. 1 second. Nevertheless, so readily concur in the flipper-tigibbet fancies of a shallow houseboy, at least to the extent of flailing to raise objections to his casserole of cats. However, when I think things over and see them in perspective, I can understand that it is not altogether unreasonable that my master and his houseboy should thus look down on me. Two relevant sayings by ancient Chinese sages occur to my mind. Elevated and noble music cannot penetrate the ears of the worldly wise, and everyone sings street songs, but very few can join in singing such learned airs as Shining Spring and White Snow. It's a waste of effort to try and force those incapable of seeing more than outer form to understand the inner brilliance of their own souls. It's like pressing a shaven priest to do their hair in a bun, like asking a tiny fish to deliver a lecture, like urging a tram to abandon its rails, like advising my master to change his job, like telling Tatara to think no more about money. Thank you so much for attending. I'll see you soon. In short, it is exorbitant to expect men to be other than they are. Now, the cat is a social animal. And as such, however highly he may rate his own true worth, he must contrive to remain, at least to some extent, in harmony with society as a whole. It is, indeed, a matter of regret that my master and his wife, even such creatures as Osang and Tatara, do not treat me with the degree of respect which I properly deserve. But nothing can be done about it. That's the way things are, and it would be very much worse, indeed fatal, if their ignorance they went so far as to kill me, flay me, serve me up my butchered flesh at Tatara's dinner table, and sell my empty skin to cat maker of cat banjos. Since I am truly unusual, since I am a truly unusual cat, one born into this world with a mission demanding purely mental activity, I am responsible for safeguarding the inestimable worth of my own rarity. As the proverb says, the rich man's son is never seated at the edge of the raised hall. I, too, am far too precious to be exposed to the danger of a tumble into calamity. If sheer vainglory led me to run such risk, I would not be inviting personally disaster but flouting the evident will of heaven. However, even the fiercest tiger, once installed in a zoo, settles down resignedly next to some filthy pigs. Let me check. Never seen Otoro-san. Otoro-san, nice to meet you. Thank you for dropping by my stream. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really means a lot to me. Thank you. Alright. Even the largest of wild geese, once in the poulterer's hand, must finish up on the self-same chopping board as the scrawniest chickling. Consequently, for as long as I consort with ordinary men, I must conduct myself as if I were an ordinary cat. Ordinary cats catch rats. This long but faultless chain of logic leads to but one conclusion. I have finally decided to catch a rat. I understand that for now, for some time, Japan has been at war with Russia. Being a Japanese cat, I naturally side with Japan. I have even been cherishing a vague ambition to organize some kind of a cats brigade, which, if only a scratch formation, would still inflict claw damage on the Russian horde. But thus magnificently militant, why should I do this over a miserable rat or two? So long as the will to catch them burns within me, why I should rake them with my eyes shut. Long ago, when someone asked a well-known Zen priest of that ancient time how to attain enlightenment, the priest replied, "You should proceed like a cat, stalking a rat." Indeed, such utter concentration on one's objective is certainly to bring success. There is, of course, that other proverb which warns against other cleverness. The over-clever woman may well have failed to sell her cow, but I've never heard it suggested that an over-clever cat might fail to catch a rat. Thus, a cat of my outstanding qualities should have no trouble in catching any rat around. Indeed, I cannot see how I could fail to catch one. The fact that up until now I have not caught any, reflects no more than my erstwhile disinclination to do so, nothing more than that. Just as yesterday, the spring sun sets and flurries of falling cherry blossom, whirled on occasional gusts of the evening wind, burst in through the broken kitchen door. The floating on the water in the kitchen pail, they glimmer whitely in the dim light of a kitchen lamp. Now that I have decided to surprise the entire household with the feat of an arms, which I propose to achieve during the coming night, I realize that some preliminary reconnaissance of the battlefield is needed to ensure my proper grasp of the topography of the ground. The field of maneuver is not particularly large, covering perhaps an area of 4 mats. Of that area, a full eighth is occupied by the sink, while other 8 consists of the unfloored space where roundsmen from the wine shop and the greengrocers stand to wait for the day's order. The stove is unexpectedly grand for a poor man's kitchen, and it even boasts a brilliantly shiny copper kettle. Behind the stove, on a strip of wooden boarding about 2 feet wide, stands the abalone shell in which I am served my meals. Close to the living room there is a cupboard for plates and bowls, which being 6 feet long severely reduces the already limited space. Beside the cupboard, and reaching roughly up to the level of its top, shelves extend along the wall, and on one of 2 lower shelves there is an earthenware mortar with a small pail placed inside it upside down. A wooden pestle and a radish grater hang side by side from hooks, and range from there a dreary-looking pot for the extinguishing live charcoal. From the point where the blackened rafters cross, a pot hook is suspended, and on that hook a large flat basket floats in mid-air. Every now and again, under the pressure of the kitchen drafts, the basket moves with a certain magnanimity. When I was a newcomer to this house, I simply could not understand why this basket hung where it did, but learning later that it was so placed specifically to prevent cats from getting at the food which it contained, I realized once again how thoroughly mean, how preternaturally bloody minded are the hearts and heads of humankind. The reconnaissance completed, one must plan a campaign appropriate to the site. But a battle with rats can only take place where rats are available to be fought. However, hello, Crispy Prata. Hello, nice to meet you. Sorry, I'm gonna take a break to talk a little bit. Hello, Crispy Prata. Nice to meet you. We are reading Natsume Soseki's I Am a Cat, Volume 2, Chapter 2. We are about 2 hours and a half in, and I'm not sure when are we ending, but I think it should be soon. Oh, Otoro-san! Thank you! Oh, crispy prata sounds so delicious right now. I would love to have some. Hi, Otoro. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for dropping by and leaving me a comment in the chat. Thank you. And if you don't mind, do give me a little follow as well. I do my readings every alternate days, unless I don't feel like it, or if I am busy with the day. But do follow me so that you'll get a notification when I go live. You can also check my stream schedule to see when's the next Noodible. Yeah, and if you have missed the previous Noodibles, there is a category in my channel both YouTube and Twitch of the previous Noodibles streams as well. Uh, just for your information. Thank you very much. Now I should continue. However brilliantly one may position one's forces, they can achieve nothing if they are alone upon the field. It was thus obviously vital to determine the rats were most likely to appear. Thank you for the follow. Thank you so much. It means so much to me. Thank you so much. Standing in the middle of the kitchen, I look around and wonder what direction they would probably emerge. I feel as Admiral Togo must have done as he pondered like the likeliest course of the Russian fleet. That awful Osang went off to a bathhouse a little while ago, and she hasn't yet come back. Long ago, the children went to sleep. My master ate dumplings at Imozaka, came home and now has vanished into his study. His wife, I don't know what she's doing, but I would guess she is dozing somewhere deep in yummy dreams. An occasional rickshaw can be heard passing along the street in front of the house. Each subsequent silence makes the night more deep, its desolation lonelier. My decision to take action, my sense of resolute high spirit, the waiting kitchen battlefield, the all-pervading feeling of loneliness. It is perfect. It is the perfect setting and atmosphere for deeds of high renown. There's no doubt about it. I am the Admiral Togo of all the cats. Anyone so placed must feel, however terrifying the situation, a certain wild exhilaration. But I confess that underneath that pleasurable excitement, I was persistently nagged by this disquieting consideration. I have decided to battle with rats, so I care nothing for the mere number of rats to be fought, but I do find it's worrying inconvenient not to know from which direction or directions the rats will make their appearance. I have collated and analyzed the results of my recent reconnaissance, and have concluded that there are three lines of advance by which this robber riffraff might debouch upon the field. If they are gutter rats, they'll come sneaking up the drain pipe. Oh, that's Isabella. Isabella's taking a nap. That's fine. That's completely fine. It's okay. It's nice to listen to this while you're in bed, actually. To be fair. Let's be fair. If they are gutter rats, they'll come sneaking up the drain pipe to the sink and then snip round behind the stove, in which case my correct tactic is to be hiding behind the charcoal, extinguish it, and thence interdict their line of retreat. Alternatively, such villains might slide in through the hole cut at the base of the washroom's plaster wall for the escape of dirty water into the outside drain. If they adopt that point of entry, they could then sneak across the washroom and so pop out into the kitchen. In which case, my best tactic is to station myself on the lid of the rice cooker, from which position, as the filthy brutes glide past below me, I could drop upon them from the sky. Finally, my visual check of the terrain has revealed, at the bottom right corner of the cupboard, a not half moon of a hole which looks suspiciously convenient for raiding cats. Putting my nose to the place, I sniff the ground. It smells a little ratty. If a rat comes dashing out to battle from this curved sally port, my best tactic is to lurk behind the pillar and pounce upon him from the side as he scuttles by. A further thought then struck me. Suppose the rats should find some line of advance along unexpectedly higher ground. I look up. The soot-black ceiling gleams evilly in the glow of the lamp. It looks like hell hung upside down. It is plain that my limited strength and skills I could neither climb up there, still less climb down. Either because if I can't, rats can't, or because if I can't, rats wouldn't. I decide that there's no likelihood that they will descend from those infernal altitudes, and I accordingly abandon any attempts to make plans to cope with that threat. Even so, there's a danger of being simultaneously attacked from three directions. If they come from only a single direction, with one eye shut, I could wipe the whole lot out. If if from two directions, still I would be able to cope. But if they come from three directions, however confident I may be of my instinctive aptitude of catching rats, the situation would be distinctly dicey. It would be an affront to my own dignity to go beg help from such a rickshaw blackie. What on earth shall I do? When having wondered what on earth to do, one still can't think of anything. It is, I have found, the shortest way to peace of mind, to decide that what one fears won't happen. In fact of point, one chooses to assume that the insupportable will never occur. Look around the world. Look around at the world. Today's delighted bride holds no guarantee against death tomorrow, but the bridegroom, happily chanting auspicious texts, displays no sign of worry. The fact that he doesn't worry is not because there's nothing to be worried about. The reason is that however much he worries, it will not make the slightest difference. So too, in my case, I have no reason whatsoever to assert simultaneous triple-pronged attacks will certainly never be launched, but to decide that they won't sort best with my self-assurance. All things need assurance, not least myself. I have consequently reached the firm conclusion that attacks from three directions will not happen. I really love this paragraph. Just pause a little. Just think about it, right? If you have a lot of anxiety about like what ifs, like I do, like what if bad things will happen, what if this bad thing or that bad things will happen, it's like you worry about it. But why worry? Because it's out of your control, right? So that's a very good lesson to learn from this little cat, I think. Oh, I see a very interesting looking visitor. I will see who it is. Let me see. It is a Frosty Chungus. Nice to meet you. Thank you very, very, very much. Thank you very much for dropping by. I really appreciate it. Otoro, once again, crispy prata. Very delicious treat, indeed. And Isabella is absolutely smart to be taking a nap while doing this because I understand the feeling. I truly do. But yes, thank you so much for being here, you guys. I'm gonna change my angle a little bit to make sure that everyone's is in frame. I'm trying my best. Okay, I think this is a good angle. Okay, there you go. Oh my god, more beds. The leader of Namazu? Yeah, he does look like a leader of Namazu, right? Oh, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with me. It means a lot to me that you are here in the game and also in my Twitch listening to me read. It's a project that I'm very proud of and very happy of. Okay, we shall continue. So the lesson that we learned just now is that so what if you have worries? Doesn't matter. Oh, thank you for Namaro for the follow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it for the follow. Thank you so much. Thank you. So yeah, even if you have worries about bad things that's going to happen, there's no proof that it's going to happen. Therefore, don't worry about it. Does that make sense? It's going to be hard, I think, to not be worried, especially for someone as anxious as I am. But I will try my best to learn my lesson from this book. And now I shall continue. Even so, I still feel twigs of doubts. I pondered the cause of this continuing uneasiness and worried away at the problem until at last I understood the source of my disquiet. It is the agony of not being able to find a single clear-cut answer to my problem. In my case, to the problem of deciding of which three strategies will prove most profitable. If rats emerge from the cupboard, I have a plan to deal with the situation. If they appear from the bathroom, I have another scheme to cope with that. And if they come sneaking through the sink, I have yet another wheeze worked out to settle their slithery hash. But to choose one of these three courses of action, then stick firmly to my choice, and that I find excruciatingly difficult. I hear that Admiral Togo was similarly excruciated as he pondered whether the Russian Baltic fleet would pass through the Straits of Tsushima or would steer more easterly course for the Straits of Tsugaru, or would take the longest way around by the heading out into the Pacific and then swinging back through the Strait of Le Perouse between Hokkaido and Sakhalin. My own predicament enabled me to fully appreciate just how worried the noble admiral must have been. Not only am I placed in similar situation, but I share his agony of choice. While I was thus absorbed in contriving a solution to my problem of major strategy, the damaged paper door was suddenly slid open. The ugly face of Osang loomed into view. I do not intend to that turn of phrase to imply that the creature lacks arms or legs, simply that the remainder of her carcass was so indistinguishable from the background darkness that only her face, hectically bright and savagely colored, struck upon my eyes. She has just returned from the bathhouse, and her normally red cheeks look positively scarlet. Even though it is still quite early, she proceeds, probably in belated wisdom learnt from last night's happenings, carefully to fasten up the kitchen door. From the study comes my master's voice enjoining her to place his walking stick at hand's reach by his bedside. Really, I fail to see why such a man should want to decorate his bedside with a walking stick. Can it be that he started to fancy himself in the role of heroic assassin who, so the classic tells us, attacked the first of the Chinese emperors? Can it be he sees his walking sticks as a treasure sword, which, at robber's touch, roared like a tiger, growled like a dragon, and then flew upwards into the sky? Surely not even my perplexed master could harbor such daft delusion. But yesterday it was the yams. Now it was walking stick. What will it be tomorrow? The night is still young. The rats are not likely to appear for some time yet. I need repose before the coming battle. There's no windows in my master's kitchen. Instead, just below the level of the ceiling, there's a sort of transom of 1 foot wide, which, left open all the year round, serves as a skylight. I was brought suddenly out of my sleep by a flurry of blossoms from the early flowering cherries, blown through the opening on a gust of wind. A hazy moonlight slant into the kitchen cast the shadow of the stove sidelong across the wooden floor. Wondering if I have overslept, I shake my 2 ears 2 to 3 times, then look carefully around to see if anything's developed. Dead silence reigns, though through which, as was the east last night, the clock ticks steadily on. It's high time that the rats come out. I wonder where they will appear. It's not long before the gentle noises starts up inside the cupboard. It sounds as though rats are trying to get at something on a plate and scrabbling on the plate's edge with their horny claws, in the expectation that these cupboard rats will eventually emerge from the north half moon at the bottom of the door. I hunker down to wait beside the opening. The rat seems in no hurry to come out. Eventually, the plate noise stopped, but soon succeeded by sounds of rat feet on some sort of bowl or basin. Every now and then there were heavy humpings on the other side of the cupboard, only a bare 3 inches distant from the tip of my waiting nose. Sometimes the sounds come even closer to the hole, but then they scamper away again, and not one single rat so much as shows its face. Just beyond that door, the foe is rampaging through the cupboard, but all I can do is lurk here quietly at half moon exits, which calls for patience, very great patience. The rats, like the Russians of the basin of Port Arthur, seems to be having a rare old shindig in their bowl. I wish that the old Sang had the mind to leave the cupboard door at least sufficiently ajar to allow me to slip through, but what one can expect from so thick-skulled a country bumpkin? From behind the stove my abalone shell emits a sound of gentle rocking. Aha! The enemy is also coming from that direction. Very well then. I creep forward on the stealthiest of paws, but catch only a glimpse of a tail among the bucket before it whisks away below the sink. A short while later I hear the clink of my master's gargling glass against the metal of the wash basin. So now they are behind me. As I turn to face this new danger, a whopping great rat, at least 6 inches long, adroitly tips a small bag of tooth powder off the shelf of the basin, and then itself goes skittering away to safety under the floorboards. Determined not to let him escape, I spring down after him, and even before I landed, the filthy beast had vanished. Catching rats, I find, is trickier than I had thought. Perhaps I'm congen- congenitally incapable of catching them. When I advance upon the bathroom, rats pop out from the cupboard. When I take pose by the cupboard, rats erupt from the sink. And when I plant myself firmly in the center of the kitchen, rats shoot racketing up on all 3 fronts together. Never have I seen such impudent bravado combined with such poltroonry. Their skittering evasion of fair fight brands them unworthy adversaries for a gentleman. 15, maybe 16 times I darted hither and thither until to no purpose. I had exhausted myself both physically and mentally. I am ashamed to confess my failure. But against such mean-souled adversaries, even the resourceful Admiral Togo would have found himself stumped. I had launched upon this venture with high courage, a determination to subdue the foe, and even a certain elevated sense of spiritual beauty of my undertaking. But now, tired out and downright sleepy, I find it merely fastidious and irksome. I cease to rush around and squat right in the center of the kitchen. But though utterly motionless, if I maintain a sharp lookout all around me, the enemy, being such miserable dastards, will never dare to try on anything serious. When unexpectedly one's enemy turns out to be so pettily paltry, the sense of war as an honorable activity cannot be sustained, and one is left with nothing but a feeling of naked hatred, and that acrid animosity dulls one, becomes downhearted, and even absent-minded. And after that, the general dimness fades away. One just feels sleepy. So deep is the lethargy of complete disdain that one feels prepared to let one's foe to do anything they like. For what is possible significance, one asks oneself, are beings so debased capable of doing? Having myself gone through all those stages, I too eventually grew sleepy and dozed off. All that lives must rest, even in the midst of enemies. I woke to find a violent wind blowing around me. Again, a gust was so pitching handfuls of petals through the open transom running along below the eaves. At the very moment of my waking, something shooting out from the cupboard like a bullet from a gun sliced across the blowing wind, and quick as a flash fastened its snapping teeth into my left ear. I had barely to re- time I had barely time to realize what was happening before another black shadow flickered around behind me and closed its jaw upon my tail. All this took place within a batting of an eye. Taking no thought whatsoever, by simple reflex action I spring to my feet, converting all my strength into shuddering paroxysm of my skin. I try to shake these monsters off. The demon, anchored to my ear, yanked off his feet as I sprang to mine, dangles down beside my face. The end of his tails, spongily soft like rubber tubes, falls unexpectedly into my mouth. I take a firm grip onto the beastly object, teeth clamps fast upon it. I waggle my head from side to side as hard as I let go. The tail came off my jaws, while the agitated body, slung first against the wall plastered with old newspaper, bounced off onto the floorboards. While the rat is still struggle while the rat still struggles to regain his balance, quick to seize my chance to pounce upon him, but like some rebounding ball, he whizzes up past my descending muzzles and lands surprisingly high on one of the upper shelves. Tucking in his legs, he stares down at me over the edge of his shelf. I stare up at him from the wooden floor. The distance between us is about 5 feet. Clean across the distance, the moonlight slants from the transom like a woman's broad white sash stretched out along the air. Concentrating all my strength in my legs, I leapt up at the shelf. My front paws grasped on its edge, but weighted down by the rat still riveting to my tail. My hind legs are left scrabbling in mid-air. I'm in danger. I try to clamber upward by judicious adjustment to the positions of my paw, but with each such effort, by reason of the rat's weight on my tail, merely resulting in weakening of my paw hole, if my paw slip one further quarter of an inch, I shall be lost. I am in great danger. My claws scrape noisily along the wooden ledge. In a last effort, I tried to advance my left paw, but its claws failed to gain purchase in smooth wood surface, and I finished hanging by a single claw of my right paw. My body dragged fully out under its own, and the rare rat's weight begins both to swing and to rotate. The monster on the shelf, which has hitherto been content to sit motionless and glare at me, now hops down onto my forehead. My last claw loses hold, melded into one black lump. Three bodies plummet downwards through the slanted moonlight. Objects on the shelf below, the earthenware mortar, the small pail standing inside it, an empty tin, swell in the falling lump, further swollen by the dislodgment of a charcoal extinguisher, finally splits in two. Half the ugly mass falls straight into the water jar, while the rest integrates into bodies wildly rolling across the kitchen floor. In the dead quiet of night, the noise was truly appalling. Even my own already frantic soul was taken further by the din. "Burglars!" hoarsely bellowing. My master comes rushing out from the bedroom. He carries a lamp in one hand and a walking stick in the other. From his sleepy eyes there flashes as much of the light of battle as such a man could be expected to muster. I crouch down silently beside my abalone shell. The two red monsters vanish into the cupboard. What's going on here? Who made all that hideous noise? My master, looking vaguely sheepish, shouts in his angriest voice questions that no one's dared to answer. The westering moon sank steadily lower and lower, and its broad white shafts of light across the kitchen narrowed and narrowed as it sank. That is the end of chapter 2 of volume 2 of I Am a Cat by Natsume Sōseki. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very, very much for attending. Thank you so much for attending. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone who attend in game. Thank you so much to whoever listening in my Twitch channel right now. I am. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I deserve the tea, right? Oh, I've been reading for 3 hours. Thank you so much for attending. To the viewers on my Twitch channel, whoever followed me today, I really appreciate it. I would recommend you to give me a follow so that you know that whenever I go live, and also you can check on my Twitch channel. Um, thank you. Oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All of you. Yes. Do check my Twitch channel for my Noodible stream. My Noodible streams are pretty regular. I do it like uh every alternate days unless I'm tired or I have something to do on that day. So the next Noodible will be on this coming Wednesday, 10 a.m. as usual. So do give me a follow on Twitch and on Twitter as well if you would like for notifications, and I will alert you guys when I'm going live basically, and look up for my schedule. And usually after the Noodable stream, I will continue streaming for other gaming content, but today I am a little bit busy with work, so I will stream after I am done with my work. So once again, give me a follow on Twitch so that you will know when I am going live. Yeah, okay. Uh, Once again, thank you very, very, so very much for attending the event. Thank you so very much for being here with me, and thank you so much for listening to me um, read this book. It means a lot to me. Isabella, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Zenny, thank you very, 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 very much. Otoro, thank you very much. And Kada, thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. I really, 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 really appreciate it. I really do. Ah, hello, Endo. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Endo. I know who you are. I see you just now. Yeah, I start to realize that each chapter is about 3 hours long. Um, I mean, I do some like pause in between to talk to you guys and all that, but yeah, thank you, Twisty. Yeah, thank you so much. This means so much to me, and I hope that you all will have a wonderful Monday, a very smooth week ahead, and I'll see you guys later. I will stream later, but a bit later. I'm gonna try to do some work today. Adios. I'll see you guys soon. Yeah, Endo, you gotta be careful. Oh, thank you, Endo, for the follow. Thank you so much. Yeah, you can check my stream for yeah, once you follow me you'll get a notification that I'm going live, and you can also always pop on to my stream to check on my Noodible schedule, but I will also stream other content as well, like raiding or just helping people do dungeon stuff and all that. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much. I love you guys. Goodbye. Have a great, great, great and smooth Monday and a great week ahead. I love you. Bye.